Are you finding it a hard time to make business ends meet? Do you constantly worry about your cash flow? Well, if so, you are not alone by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of small business owners do struggle with cash flow issues, and it often comes down to bad billing, bad invoicing procedures. In fact, you would be surprised, or maybe not, at just how much difference a few simple billing and invoice changes can dramatically change for the better your financial health. So, without further ado, let's crack on and let me share 5 big billing mistakes that will hurt your cash flows and how to avoid them. Number 1, not invoicing on a regular basis. Now, customers need to be invoiced on a regular basis, and you need to be consistent about it. Develop that good habit. If you only invoice once in a while when you get round to it, or you're very sporadic with your invoicing, it's going to be harder not only for your clients to understand what's going on, but for you to stay on top of your cash flow. Try to invoice customers at the same time each month, or if it's possible, invoice them on a more regular basis. Obviously, a lot will depend on the services that you provide, but make sure you do it consistently. Getting into a regular invoicing routine is going to make it much easier for you to predict and to manage your cash flow effectively. Even more, it means that you're less likely to forget someone or to follow up on an overdue invoice. Number 2, poor, inadequate, lax payment terms. Now, your payment terms need to be clear and ideally communicated with the clients before the work starts. And you need to make sure you enforce them consistently. There's no point having terms if you're not going to have clients adhere to them. Now, a lot of small businesses are too lenient and sometimes a bit nervy when it comes to enforcing payments, which can really come back and bite you in the financial backside. If you're not careful, you can end up waiting weeks or even months for payments that are overdue. And if that happens, by the way, folks, giving credit terms means that you are funding your client's business. As a general rule, you need to make sure you get paid promptly. You need to get paid on time. That means your payment terms need to be clear and invoices need to be sent out as soon as the job is completed. Don't be afraid to follow up on late payment reminders either. A simple phone call or email can often be enough to prompt that customer to pay their overdue invoice. They could have forgotten, it could have fallen into their in-tray, or they could be bag-minded. But either way, make sure you're clear and consistent and prompt. Another thing to be aware of, number 3, is not using invoicing software. In my experience, far too many people rely on Word documents or similar to send their invoices out. And if you're still using paper invoices, yes, they do work, and manual billing procedures, but it's time to make a change. Nowadays, there are plenty of invoicing software programs. Xero is my personal favorite, and they can save you a lot of time, a lot of hassle, and you also get paid more promptly. With invoicing software, you can automate many of the tasks associated with billing, such as sending out proposals, getting them converted into invoices, tracking those payments, reminder letters, statements, and following up on overdue invoices. This will free up a lot of your time so you can focus on other aspects of running your business. Now, in one of my own businesses, I Hate Numbers, when I introduced accounting software to send out invoices, I noticed a particularly positive upturn in getting paid more promptly. Now, invoicing software can also help you to become more efficient and organised, which will save you the money in the long run. Now, if you're not using invoicing software, I would strongly urge you to think on that one and make the switch today. It will make a big difference to your cash flow. Tip number 4. Failing to itemise products and services clearly on the invoice. If you merely say services done and you put a figure, the client may not fully recollect what that invoice is for. And if you want to get paid promptly, make sure you communicate clearly on the invoice what the invoices are for. They're clear and they're concise. That means you itemise what you're providing, the products and services clearly, and the cost and price against those services. Customers should be able to look at an invoice and think, oh, that's exactly what I've ordered, that's exactly what I wanted. They know what they're paying for, and therefore there's less time being wasted for them to question the invoice itself. Now, invoicing software Certainly when we set it up for clients, when we set up digital systems for them to get into, you can define and have the layout of the invoice such that it clearly describes what's going on. They're professional looking and those line items can be there. So take the time, set up the invoicing software properly and make sure they're clear and easy to understand and decipher. Every query that you manage to kick into touch means you'll get paid at a much faster rate. Now, tip number 5 is, and it really links back to an earlier point here, is don't delay on the invoicing. So don't think I'll do my invoicing when I get time. You need to form a good habit, and when the work is completed, get the invoice out the door. Customers count the time, the days that they have to pay you, from the time they get the invoice, not from when you've done the work for them. That might be unfair, but that's the way that clients behave. Last tip, as a Brucey bonus, so to speak, is make sure the invoice is addressed to the right people. So if you're working for a large organisation, that's your client, make sure you know the department that you've got to invoice, any references, any purchase orders that you've got to quote on the invoice as well. So folks, let's round up what we said. It's all about being professional, it's all about being clear, it's all about being concise with your invoices, being prompt, making sure that you follow your terms of business, making sure the client's aware of what your terms of business are, and simple steps will alleviate that cash flow pressure that you might find yourself under. Take the time to set up your system correctly, and if you don't have a digital system, then check out the link in the show notes here, by the way, to our guide, and we're more than happy to help you set up a digital system and make sure you've got a system that's fit for purpose. Where you can, automate your tasks. Sending out reminders to clients is really important, but you cannot neglect your billing processes. And if you don't have a billing process, this is the time to get one in place.